Hi, Kenny587. This is Bo Portsmouth. My first name is Bo, and I wanted to address the video you posted. I gathered that you didn't actually make the video, that this is something you found and reposted, and I commented on it, and you told me that I needed to calm down and respond less emotionally, and I absolutely agree. I apologize that my initial response was so emotional, and I'm going to address that right now. Um, some of the things that I noticed in the video that I can just point out straight away as being wrong. It says that 60% of if 60% if 60% of the population is Muslim, there'll be unfettered religious persecution, ethnic cleansing, use of Sharia law, I guess, to oppress people, and there will be application of jizya, the tax on infidels. I wanted to talk about the jizya. Um, the jizya was started, I believe, in the Ottoman Empire, and it was a tax on non-Muslims. The dumbed-down version says it was a tax so they could practice their religion, but that's not all it was. That wasn't the only reason behind it. And the tax was a percentage on their income, I believe. I don't think it was a fixed amount. Um, Non-Muslims were taxed because if you were not Muslim, you were not eligible to enter the Ottoman military. And these people who were of non-Muslim faith, they were paying for the right to be protected by these Muslim military forces. In addition, part of the Muslim legal, or I guess Sharia law, and part of their entire faith, one of their pillars, is that they give a certain percentage of their income to the poor and the needy, and it all goes to charity. And the other religions don't guarantee that. You know, Christianity, I know, and I believe Judaism really stresses charity, but it's not. There's not a set part of people's income that is dedicated to it, as it is in Islam. So, kind of in order to really spread that practice across the Ottoman Empire, the jizya tax also provided money that would go to people of need. So it wasn't just so people could practice their religion. It was, part of it was to pay for this military protection that they're receiving and the exemption from compulsory military participation, and it was, part of it was to help the needy throughout the empire, which I think is actually kind of a really beautiful thing if you think about it. But it is, I guess, sketchy that it was based on people's religions. And in our modern world, especially as Americans, it seems like an awful thing. But it's also important to note that I did some research online and I couldn't find any instances where jizya is part of any modern country's legal code. I don't know if jizya is part of any country's legal code at all nowadays. And if you can find facts to support that, or the original maker of the video can, I would love to see that. I would be very, very interested to see that. So that's not a fact. And some of the countries you said that would be doing this unfettered religious persecution, ethnic cleansing, use of Sharia law to oppress people in the jizya were Albania, Qatar, Malaysia, and Sudan. I can tell you right off the bat, Qatar does not do any of these things, not just the 60 percentile behaviors, 80%. None of the things mentioned in the video happen in Qatar. My parents lived there. They lived there for going on 4 years now, and I lived there for 6 months. And I am a white American male. I was raised Catholic, and I still practice Catholicism. And my parents are devoutly Catholic, and they attend Mass almost every day. There is a Catholic church in Doha that they attend. There are a number of Christian churches of various denominations in Doha. And my parents love living in Qatar. There is no religious persecution that I experienced. There is some social tension between people of various Muslim sects, and especially, I believe, between Muslims and Hindus, but none of that is codified or legalized. And it's largely an interpersonal issue. It's not part of the culture. As a whole, Qatar is very, very welcoming to people from other nations. A lot of their workforce are expatriates, and my parents work for the Qatar Foundation in its educational aspect. My dad is head of human resources for one of the branch campuses over there. My mom works in another school in the Writing Center. You know, Qatar has gone through massive sweeping changes in the last 20 years to modernize, and the royal family has really been the dominant energy behind that, and it's kind of the ideal of what a Muslim nation can be. It's not at all backwards or you know, this hive of terrorist activity that people think Muslim nations are. It's really a beautiful, wonderful place to live, and it broadened my horizons, and it made me see the world so very differently, and it gave me a respect for Islam that I didn't have before, and it gave me a respect for other cultures that I didn't have before. And I detest the way the West really demonizes Islam. You know, we don't hear about the positive things that Islam does. Just like converting to Christianity, people who convert to Islam, you know, have beautiful changes of character, and they become beautiful people. And just as Christianity can be used for awful, awful things, like, you know, the Westboro Baptist Church or televangelists who steal people's money, you know, Islam, specifically paired with ignorance, can really abuse people. But it's not the nature of the religion that does that. It's the nature of the people who take up the religion and allow others to lead them to that. Just some other things I wanted to talk about that were non-factual, that the video stated as facts. It says that 80% that you'll have daily jihad, ethnic cleansing by the state, and genocide, which are essentially the same thing, so I don't understand why they wanted to separate that. The nations they mentioned as having this were Egypt, Iran, Iraq, Jordan, Morocco, Turkey, the UAE, and Palestine. And I done some research, and I could not find any instances of ethnic cleansing or genocide in Jordan, Morocco, Turkey, the UAE. I don't know about Iran. I don't think there's been any recent ethnic cleansing in Egypt. I know during the modest revolutions and takeovers there was some ethnic cleansing that went on. Bangladesh, Egypt, Iran, Iraq, Palestine, obviously they've all had humanitarian and human rights issues throughout the years, but those issues aren't just caused by the Muslim population. They aren't just, you know, because of Islam. A lot of that has to deal with the history of the region and you know, underlying social forces, not just because of these religions that come into play. I really, really wish the maker of the video would have attached some sources for this information that could, because it all just sounds like rhetoric. It just sounds like awful rhetoric. So the purpose of my video was mainly to refute what the video said about Qatar, but also just to say, you know, this is kind of like a consolidated list of all the most awful views of what the West has about Islam, and it just sounds awful. And I really don't think there's any proof to back it up. There may be incidental proof, but I don't think that because people are Muslim or that Islam is the prevalent religion in any of these societies, that's what causes these things. It's people's nature, and as I said in the comments, widespread ignorance and kind of the culture of ignorance that has attached itself to Islam in many portions of the world that really is the impetus behind so many of these awful things that happen. The video mentioned the period of Dar al-Salam, where there's 100% Muslim population. You know, there would be only Muslims, so there would be peace, which the video refuted. The only murders and massacres, and the Quran was the only word. The countries it mentioned as having this was Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, Somalia, Yemen. I don't think, you know, Afghanistan and Yemen certainly don't have universal peace. I don't think they have universal Islam as their religious demographics either. So whoever made this video really needs to go in and check their facts. And as I've been saying, it absolutely sounds like awful rhetoric. So if you have anything you want to say to respond to this, I would love to hear it. You can post it as a comment. You can post your own video response. I would love to see that. I'm going to make another video kind of talks about some of the more positive aspects of Islam later. I have a text to study for, so I have to sign off now. But thank you for willing to have a discussion with me about this. I appreciate it.